So hello everyone. Today we will start the last part of this unit, design for the eccentric loading. So first of all we'll go with the definition. What is a design for the eccentric loading? So whenever the centroidal axis, so see here the centroidal axis and the load axis, whenever the load axis does not coincide with the centroidal axis, it is parallel but does not coincide with the centroidal axis, which is separated by distance e, which is called as a eccentricity, then this type of this design is called design for the eccentric loading. I'll give the some of the examples. So we know the different examples, like a machine vise is there, also the pipe vise, bench vise is there, C clamp is there. Okay. Also one more application, the design of the punching machine. So where we observe the load axis, and centroidal axis are separated from each other at a distance e, that is called as a eccentricity. So you know this C clamp. Okay. So here is the screw portion. So this is a workplace and here is the workpiece. So which is clamp. Okay. And this is a cross section. Suppose we assume it is a rectangular cross section. So in this case, so this is the example of design for the eccentric loading. So here, so this is the load axis. Okay, and here is the centroidal axis. So distance between these two is called as a E, that is eccentricity. So this is the best example, the component subjected to the eccentric loading. Whenever we have to calculate the dimensions of this cross section, whenever we have to calculate the stress distribution across this cross section from the inner side and the outer side, so at that time there is need to go for the design for the eccentric loading. At the end we will get the stress distribution from the two extreme sides of this cross section, and that is obtained with the help of the design of the eccentric loading. So we'll take the one example, or we'll get the final equations. Consider a rectangular bar or rectangular strut whose cross section is shown here, the front view and the top view. This is the side AB, this is the side CD. This is the center point, or we can say the CG point, from which the line passing, which is called as a centroidal axis. This is the load P. P is the external load which applies at the AB edge of this rectangular strut. So which is at a distance E from the centroidal axis. So we can say this rectangular strut is subjected to eccentric loading. Now, with the effect of this external load, the P having the two effect, the first figure shows, so this is the figure A, suppose we can say, figure A shows when the P acts, which is coinciding to the centroidal axis, so it subjected to the compressive stresses which act over the entire cross section of the rectangular strut, and the compressive stresses are developed and the magnitude of the compressive stresses sigma c is equal to P upon A. This is the equation we have. Sigma c is equal to the P upon A. For this figure, when the P acts coinciding to that of this centroidal axis, so where we have the compressive stresses are developed across the cross section of that of this rectangular strut, and this compressive stress, the magnitude of the compressive stress is obtained by using this equation. Sigma c is equal to P upon A, where P is the magnitude of the compressive force and A is the cross section area for this rectangular strut. It may be the circular, it may be the other cross section, so that that area can be calculated. With this, so we can calculate the net compressive stress in a component if the P coincide with the centroidal axis. Now coming toward the figure B. So assume this is the figure B. When this force P, okay, when it is subjected to compressive force but at a distance E, which is called as a eccentricity, or in other way we can say when the load axes are separated from the centroidal axis at a distance E called as a eccentricity, then these rectangular struts are subjected to compressive and tensile stresses at the edge AB and CD. How it is? See here, due to this compressive force which is acting at an eccentricity E at the edge AB, the portion subjected to the compressive stress like this. This is the portion of the inner surface, and outer fiber subjected to the tensile stresses like this. So like this, the beam is subjected to the bending failure, where we found inner surface having the compressive stress and outer fiber subjected to the tensile stress. So this is about the axis YY. This bending takes place about the centroidal axis, which is about the YY axis. So this is the distance YC and this is the distance YT, which is the distance from the centroidal axis, also called as the distance from the neutral axis. Then here we have to calculate the magnitude sigma b, as it is subjected to the bending stress. We have the basic equation of the bending stress. Sigma b is equal to the my upon I. Also we have m is the bending moment, and this I by y is the section modulus. So I by y is the section modulus, so we can write here m by z, where z is the section modulus. So here m can be calculated. So this is the couple. This is the couple. M is equal to P into E upon Z. And this distance Y, is when it is a compressive at the inner surface, then this is the YC distance. When at the outer surface, then YT we have to substitute. So this is the distance from the centroidal axis. So we name this as equation number 2. The first effect, the direct compressive stress, simply we use this equation. Sigma c is equal to the P upon A. So entire cross section is subjected to the compressive stress, and we calculate the magnitude of the compressive stress. Like this distribution plot we will get. In second, the beam is subjected to this bending stress due to this eccentric load, where the load axis is shifted from the centroidal axis at an eccentricity E. So where this is the basic equation we have to use, and with this we can calculate the bending stress, which is having the two magnitude, bending stress at AB and bending stress at CD. So at two surfaces, inner and the outer surface, we can calculate the bending stress magnitude, and finally we have to go for the combined effect of the figure number A and the figure number B. So which is this third figure, so which is, we can say, the C. So now, after getting that was this figure number A, figure number B, now we'll go for the figure number C, where we consider the superimposing effect of A and the B, or we overlap the A and the B so that net stress or resultant stress can be calculated at the two extreme side, here AB and CD. So final stress distribution we have to plot here by considering the effect of direct compressive stress and bending stress by combining the effect of direct compressive stress and bending stress. So here we have to superimpose that figure and that effect so that we'll get the net effect for the compressive and the bending stress. Then first, at the edge AB, already I told, so the inner fiber is subjected to compressive stress. This is the nature of the magnitude. Therefore, we can write resultant stress. So we can write resultant compressive stress. Resultant compressive stress is equal to sigma B plus sigma C. This is the equation we have to use to calculate the net magnitude in compressive direction or in compressive side at the edge AB, because this is the compressive stress sigma C. Again, this is the magnitude of the stress at the inner surface or inner fiber sigma B. So we can write the net resultant compressive stress sigma C is equal to sigma B plus sigma C. This is the equation we have to use. Then one more nature we have to see, the outer fiber subjected to tensile stress. See here, this is the figure. So this is the dotted line represent the outer fiber subjected to tensile stress due to this eccentric load P. So this is the magnitude of the tensile stress. So now we have the net or resultant tensile stress is equal to sigma B minus sigma C. Sigma B, that sigma B minus sigma C, as sign convention, sigma B downward positives, sigma C again sigma T, it is upward direction, so that negative. So here, so we use this equation so that we can calculate the resultant tensile stress by using this equation. And these two are the final equations we have to remember to calculate the net stress distribution across both the sides. So here at the side AB you will find the maximum stresses are there compared to the stresses at the CD. So that uneven stress distribution we observe after superimposing the effect of compressive stress and the tensile stress. And this is the aim from this topic, design for the eccentric load. Whenever we have the dimensions of the cross section, whenever we have the eccentric load, finally we have to calculate the net stress distribution across the inner and the outer side. As I told, the example of that was C clamp. Suppose this is the C frame, and whenever we have to calculate the stress distribution at the inner surface and outer surface for this rectangular cross section, what should be the stress distribution? So these are the two equations we can use to calculate the stress distribution at the inner and the outer side. So in addition to the dimensions, we can also get the the magnitude of the stresses so that we can plot the stress distribution plot. So for the given application or the given component that we are going to design. So now we will see the one design problem on a eccentric load. So this is the problem. I will read the statement of the problem. A rectangular strut having cross section of 150 mm by 120 mm subjected to eccentric load 180 kilonewton 180 kilonewton, which are separated from the centroidal axis at 10 mm. That means distance from the load axis and the centroidal axis, that is equal to the 10, and that is denoted by the small e. So here in a given data, we have P is equal to 180 kilonewton, which is equal to 180 into 10 raised to 3 Newton. Okay, then E, small e, is the 10 mm. Cross section area, as the area is a rectangular, so area is equal to the 150 into 120. That is the area. So this area is equal to, it comes 18 into 10 raised to 3 mm square. Now, after writing the given data carefully, by reading the problem statement once or twice, sometimes the sketch is not given, only the statement is there, so that we have to develop this sketch for the problem, and then we have to start to get the solution of this problem. So here this is the sketch. This is the load 180 kilonewton subjected to eccentric load at an eccentricity 10 mm. This is a cross section of the rectangular strut 150 by 120 mm. And we have to calculate the stress intensities at AB and at CD, so that at the end we can calculate the stress distribution across this AB and the CD. And here in this problem, so we have to calculate the stress intensity due to this eccentric load at the AB and at CD. As I told, the first step, so there are the two effects. One is the direct compressive stress, sigma C. We have the equation sigma C is equal to P upon A. P is known, 180 into 10 raised to 3 upon 18 into 10 raised to 3. Okay, so sigma C is equal to 10 Newton per mm square. Are you getting? So here sigma C calculated 10 Newton per mm square. This is our first answer when this rectangular strut subjected to the direct compressive stress. So we have sigma C is equal to 10 Newton per mm square. So we can say this is equation number 1. Thereafter, second, we have to calculate the bending stress. We know that sigma B is equal to my upon I, or also we can write okay, m by z. Z is the section modulus, and which is equal to the I by y. So in this equation, m is the bending moment. So the force into the perpendicular distance, m can be calculated. Here m can be calculated 180 into 10 raised to 3 into 10. This is the m. Y is the distance from the neutral axis. So here remember about the y axis, whatever bending of the beam takes place. So whatever bending of the beam takes place, this is about the axis y. About the y axis we have to calculate this I, and about the y axis we have to calculate, or we have to get the value of the y. And we know the I about the y axis. I y is equal to dB cube by 12. I is nothing but the dB cube by 12. This d is nothing but the vertical distance, and this v is nothing but the horizontal distance, width and the height. So when we have to calculate the moment of inertia about the y, then this is the equation dB cube by 12, and when we calculate the Ixx, then the equation becomes vd cube by 12. Very simple to remember, to avoid the mistake while doing the calculation of the Ixx and Iyy. See here, whenever we have to calculate the moment of inertia about the x axis, that means this is the x axis, then bd cube by 12, this is a simple formula. Remember, with a short trick, b means horizontal and d means vertical. So in this cross section, which is the horizontal distance, this is a b, and this is the vertical distance, that is a d. Like this we can calculate the moment of inertia about the xx. But in this problem, the beam is bent about the y-axis. Therefore, so we can't use this moment of inertia about the xx. We have to calculate the moment of inertia about the y-axis. For that, this is the formula dB cube by 12. D means vertical and B means horizontal. Already I used the trick to avoid the confusion, to get the moment of inertia. So here D means vertical, that means 120. B means horizontal, that is 150 cube by 12. So like this we use this, we calculate the, so here moment of inertia, that is the D means vertical 120, B means horizontal into 150 cube by 12. Okay, then this y distance, y again this is the distance 150 about the vertical axis, we have to calculate it. So vertical axis, this one 120 is the distance, so y is equal to the 120 divided by the 2, and this we have to calculate this sigma b, and that comes 4 Newton per mm square. This is our equation number 2. Here we calculate the magnitude of the compressive stress, magnitude of the bending stress, and now we have to combine the effect of the compressive and the bending stress. As we seen the last lecture or previous slide, so where the effect of superimposing, so we have the first equation net compressive stress and second net tensile stress, and sigma b plus sigma c, and here sigma b minus sigma c. But see here, the value of the sigma b is a 4 Newton per mm square, and value of the sigma c is a 10 Newton per mm square. And whenever sigma c is greater than sigma b, whenever sigma c is greater than sigma b, both the side there is a compressive stress are there, there is no tensile stress present. So for any side of that of this rectangular strut. So here both the side AB and CD subjected to the compressive stress, and the magnitude of that compressive stress can be calculated here, sigma B plus sigma C, that is equal to the 14 Newton per mm square, that is the compressive stress. And here, so no tensile stress, here again the compressive stress at the side of the CD, and its magnitude is equal to the 10 minus 4, which is equal to the 6 Newton per mm square. So we have the stress distribution at the CD, this is the 6 Newton per mm square, and here the magnitude 14 Newton per mm square, and this is the stress distribution plot we drawn. Here, due to the value of sigma C is greater than the sigma P, the nature of the magnitude of the both stresses are compressive, and therefore, so this is the resultant stress at the edge AB and at the edge CD. So this completes this problem. This type of the problem already asked in a in-semester exam for the 6 mark. So you go through this problem, so and obtain these answers. So finally our aim is to calculate the magnitude at AB and magnitude at CD. So that we calculated here with the help of this problem. So this is the problem number 1. So this is the figure, this is the given data, and finally we obtain the doing the calculation, and by considering the effect of both the compressive and bending stress, finally we have the magnitude of the stresses at the inner and the outer fiber. So this completes the solution for this problem. So one more problem is remaining from this design for the eccentric loading. One problem is on a design of the C frame, and one problem is on a design of the circular, that means pipe. So out of that two problem, one problem we'll see in the next lecture, and one problem I'll give as a homework, so that all types of the problem will be covered on a design of the eccentric loading. So more chances that problem will be there on a design for eccentric loading, either for a 6 mark, because the length of the problem is less. So that problem was asked in a in-semester exam for the 6 mark. So one more problem we'll see in the next lecture, and one problem I'll give as a homework. In next class, before starting the next unit number 2, so we'll finish first of all that problem on eccentric load, and then I will take the review on a second unit. So whatever parts we have to cover from the second unit, so the quick overview on that unit number 2 content, so that we'll cover in a next lecture. So today we'll stop here. So thank you very much.